Hi there, it's Alexandra from the Middlesized Garden YouTube channel and blog, and I've just come back from London, from the Leman Locke hotel in super fashionable, recently regenerated Shoreditch, where three top plant experts have each decorated an apartment in order to show us all the inspiring ways we can decorate with indoor plants. The three designers were Michael Perry, Mr. Plant Geek, international plant consultant and TV broadcaster, who did a suite called the Tranquil Suite, Nick Southern of Grace and Thorn, the globally acclaimed florists, whose suite was about romance, and Oliver Heath, who specialises in biophilic design, whose suite was called the Productivity Suite. So what is biophilic design? Biophilia is actually the love of nature. And biophilic design means designing buildings so that there's much more connection to nature. And there's been a lot of studies recently that show that having a lot of indoor plants around can give you some of the benefits of being outside. Biophilic design means designing buildings with plants and access to nature so that the people in them can feel more relaxed, concentrate better and feel happier. A recent global study into biophilic design in the workplace showed that people were 15% more likely to report feeling happy with the plants around them, and they were more able to concentrate as well. And in Oliver Heath's Productivity Suite, he uses large plants with leaves that sway very gently in the breeze, because this relaxes the eyes. And this makes a lot of sense, because if you imagine staring at your computer for half an hour at a time and then leaning back, and then you turn around and you look at your plant and the leaves are slightly moving and your eyes will slightly move with it, but in an irregular way, and you can see how relaxing that is for the eyes. So where do you put plants in your home? Ian Drummond, CEO of Indoor Garden Design, says that you should consider what the conditions are in each room. He advises that you think about whether a room is drafty, whether it's very light, whether it's rather too dark, whether it's too hot, and these factors, and then do some research and find out which houseplants will do best in this room. I think it could also work the other way round, because I know that I tend to go out and fall in love with a plant and bring it back and think, well, where shall I put this? And that's the point at which you need to go online or have a good plant book. I'll put some in the links in the description below, and find out what conditions that plant needs in your home. You probably won't get it from the label. Labels are a bit generic, so you will have to do a little bit of research. In terms of grouping plants in the home, Ian suggests you use the same principles as you do when you're filling a border in the garden. Put the larger plants at the back, look for nice shapes, and especially look at contrasting leaf shapes and colours. Houseplants will only be in flower for a few weeks at a time, but their leaves will be with you for months or even years, although all the designers did say, don't worry when a houseplant dies. They do die, but they'll still give you great value for money if they're around for 6 months, 3 months, 9 months, a couple of years. And Ian also suggests that you add some light into a grouping by introducing plants with variegated leaves. There's an important design principle called crowd it up, where you take something that's really quite ordinary, but you give it wow factor by crowding it all together and using lots of it. And that's been used in all three of these suites. Most of the plants you see here are very easy to find, they're easy to look after, they're inexpensive, and you can get them anywhere. And yet, crowded up together and used in volume, they actually look kind of fantastic, exotic urban jungle. One way of grouping plants together is to use a grid. And both Oliver Heath and Nick Southern did this. Grids are quite easy to find, and once again I'll put some links in the description below, but you could go to your local hardware store. Quite a lot of interiors shops have them now, or you could even buy a panel of mesh fencing. It means you can hang lots of plants on the wall but only put a few screws in. In the Romance Suite, Nick Southern used a hanging bower of plants over the bed. Now, the first thing that people think of about plants in the bedroom is it dangerous? And this is a bit of a myth. Plants inhale carbon dioxide during the day and exhale oxygen, and that reverses at night. So they are emitting carbon dioxide into the air at night, just like we are. But overall, over a week or a year, plants are actually carbon sinks. They always absorb more carbon dioxide than they give out. And people do get a bit confused between carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is the gas that's released if you don't service your boiler, for example. It is very, very dangerous, but it has nothing to do with plants. Nick suggests that if you want to make a hanging bower, you could use something like a traditional clothes airer, and there are quite a few available online. I've put some links in the description below, or you can have a look around your local shops. You would then have to make sure that you secured the plants really carefully to the clothes airer, and of course make sure that none of them drip. You could also use plants as room dividers, as Oliver Heath has done. He used a small set of open shelves plus some larger plants to mark out the spaces in his suite. And of course this marks out the space very attractively, but doesn't block any light. Or you could put plants on the tops of shelves, on the tops of wardrobes, or at the top of a dresser, for instance. All three of the rooms in the Loch Leman Hotel have big full-size windows, so actually there would be enough light to put plants in this situation if they were low light loving plants. But all the designers have emphasised that this is very much an installation. It's to give you ideas, not necessarily to copy everything, because of course you would need to get up there once a week to water the plants. And if that practical consideration is more than you want to do, then actually perhaps plants on the tops of shelves isn't for you. So now let's see Michael Perry's suite in detail and hear his tips for decorating with houseplants.
I'm Michael Perry, Mr. Plant Geek, and I'm really happy to introduce you to my botanical suite, which has been built at Leman Locke Hotel in East London. And this is part of a collaboration with the Dutch Flower Council, and they've got a big initiative called Thanks Plants, which kind of really highlights plants as how important they are in our day-to-day lives with biophilic design and also kind of appreciating nature a lot more. So they asked me to design one of the rooms. You probably want to start with a few of the more easier to grow plants, and within the suite that we've got here, we've got a lot of the kind of entry-level house plants, but with a twist. So we've got spider plants, but we've got the curly one called Bonnie. So we've got a slightly different looking one with the corkscrew leaves. We've also got monsteras, we've got slightly different varieties. We've got bromeliads, we've got a lot of good starter plants, but we've used them in a few inventive and different ways. So you'll see in the bathroom, we've managed to put plants into a bathroom space on a tiled wall. So we've got suction pots. So it's not just about the plants you use, but also different containers, because it doesn't mean you've just got to put a plant on a sideboard or a worktop. You can also fix things to the wall now without drilling any holes. It's amazing. So the key part of looking after your plants is drainage, first of all. So all of these containers have got drainage one way or another. So we've got a lot of multi-planted containers, and that drainage is coming from a layer of gravel at the base. So waterlogging is very important to avoid with houseplants. I feel that with houseplants, we often kill them with kindness, because we walk past a houseplant and we water it every time. And it turns out we probably watered it 10 times in a week. Or maybe your partner waters it every time they go past as well. So plants can get really, really waterlogged. So drainage, first of all, but also the right plant in the right place. So there's a reason we haven't used cacti and succulents in the bathroom. There's a reason why they're in a sunny windowsill. We've used ferns in the bathroom. So the right plant in the right place, and you really can't go wrong. You've got the real recipe for success there. Okay. Well, I have to say we had a lot of freedom with this, because this is designed as a kind of inspiration suite. So this is an installation, so it will only be together here for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then it will be dismantled, and then the plants will be then put into different containers, and they'll be given to a range of different community projects as well. But while we're here, I did need to make sure that I was including plants that like the right conditions in the right container. So that's worked really well. And I also wanted to use foliage plants that gave a lot of different shapes, but also a lot of different colours as well. So we've got some really nice calathea, which have got like peacock effects to their leaves. So I wanted to prove that foliage didn't have to be just green. And of course we've also got the punctuation of bromeliads as well. So whilst we haven't got true flowering plants like chrysanthemums and hibiscus and all of that jazz, we've actually got bromeliads, which are kind of, to me, halfway between a foliage plant and a house plant, and they give that rainforest vibe as well. Down here, bromeliads in almost every colour of the rainbow. We've also got some bananas peeking out here as well. Beautiful, beautiful peacock calathea. Also colocasia. We've got eproprimum. We've also got ficus. So everything's very close in a kind of jungle style as well. And you've got that dressed with pothos and Monstera obliqua as well. So it makes that real instant effect and kind of really frames the TV as well. And of course, this colocasia is hiding the TV a bit, but it's a plant, so you'll forgive it, of course. So with the installation, we really wanted a wow factor. So we've actually got something here which is delightfully experimental. So we've actually got one of the first living floor rugs that exists. So obviously we've seen lots of how-tos on YouTube to make this sort of installation, but what we've done, we've worked with the first aquascaping shop in the UK, which is called Scape Nature in Norwich, to build a living floor rug. So this is a moss mat which will be in place for a few days in the installation and needs to be sprayed every day to keep up that moisture. But you can actually rest your feet on it while you're laying on the sofa. You can also tread on it very gently because of course moss in the wild is tread on very gently. And it's actually not taken from the wild, but it's Danish grown as well. And when we break down the installation, we'll be putting the moss back into the wild too. Two different types of moss also gives you this kind of hummock effect. So we've got a really nice landscape happening in the living floor rug here. So here we're in the bedroom, which I've almost renamed the calm sleep zone because we've included a lot of plants that featured on the NASA air purification list. So they're going to give you some of the best sleep that you can get in a hotel. So we've got Monstera, we've got Peace Lily that rates high for air purification. We've also got Boston Ferns in specially developed macrame holders as well, which are made by Pretty Cactus in Norwich. And they're actually dipped in eyebrew to give that orange colouring too. Furthermore, we've got some cactus right by the window. Again, right plant in the right place. And cacti are actually believed in Chinese culture to soak up electromagnetic waves. So that could help you to have a better sleep at night because it's soaking up all of those mobile phone signals. So here we have a wall of pothos, which is one of the easiest plants to grow in low light level rooms. The plants that we have actually weren't as big as we hoped when they arrived though. So we've actually got the plants laying on the containers in the meantime, but we know that pothos are very quick growing. So we're actually going to be able to stand them upright in just a few days and then start to get that natural trail that we were hoping for. So we've got some hanging containers here which are jostling with the cloves for space here, but we've got a chlorophytum, commonly known as a spider plant, but again a slightly different variety, and epiphyllum, which is the forest cactus, one of the few cacti that can grow in lower light levels because they originate in forest areas. So with hanging plants, you need to be a little bit careful because obviously when you water them, the water's going to drip out below. So make sure that you buy containers that have got inbuilt saucers at the base, or actually dunk your plants in the sink once a week and make sure all the water is drained away before you hang them back in place. Otherwise, you can have very wet furniture. So in the bathroom, we had to really innovate because we needed to dress this wall. We haven't got much floor space to put containers and kind of wide kind of planting down here. So what we did, we found some of the strongest suction containers we could find, and they actually have a great suction, but you also screw them in place. So there's absolutely no movement in these. And we planted them with a really exciting mix of what I call tot plants. So the small plants that you see in the garden centre, ones that I was buying when I was a kid and a teenager, which only cost about £1. And we've multi-planted a lot of those containers with those. So you'll see some bromeliads multi-planted with helxine, which is known as my drone business plant. Also Photonia is then mixed up with the helxine here, and a whole range of different plants such as ferns, spider plants, and a lot of trailing ripsalis as well. And overall, I'm so pleased with the effect that it gives in the bathroom. So it was probably one of my most difficult areas to try and dress, but it's now turned out to be one of the most spectacular. So we're actually going to bring some grow lights in here early next week, which again are going to help the plants that are in this space because we don't have a window in here, so that gives you certain difficulties when it comes to choosing plants. But there are some options. You could choose pothos or ZZ plant, but with this, we're going to move these around every so often, and the installation will actually be refreshed every week or so with the plants that we move out going into those different projects elsewhere. So in your own home, you could obviously grow plants in a room that hasn't got a window, but choose the right plants. So make sure that you do your research with that and make sure that you're putting the right plant in the right place, and that's the best chance of success. So what we've got here is some shelves that I've actually managed to dress with ferns. So I puzzled a little while as to how to make this part of the installation work. But what we've done, we've actually lined it with plastic, and then we've stacked up the fern pots almost in a vertical manner. And then we're going to be really inventive with how we water these. We're going to use watering syringes to get in there to actually put the moisture into the compost. So we're going to put those deep inside to make sure the ferns are getting the moisture they need, and all more importantly, misting them every day to make sure that they've got that humidity that they need in this environment. Obviously in a hotel room, we're fighting all the time against heating and air conditioning, so the watering will need to be a little more regularly than you would in a modern home. So in the bathroom, we wanted to create a real spa kind of bathroom experience. So actually here, we've tied some eucalyptus stems just below the shower head. So when you have a hot shower, you're going to get that eucalyptus fragrance, which is going to help you feel invigorated.
Another fun idea from Michael Perry is these seashells with air plants glued on them. Air plants are called tillandsia, and actually they do prefer a bright light, so they wouldn't be happy in a windowless shower room for too long. But if you have a bright bathroom, or maybe a bright window by a seaside home, these would be great fun. And you can use a little spot of glue to glue tillandsia to the shells, as long as you don't use super glue. Tillandsia don't need soil or watering in the same way that other plants do. You immerse them totally in water for about half an hour, maybe once a week, and then let them drain completely. And you spray them once a fortnight in the growing season with something like a bromeliad houseplant feeder. So what about pots for indoor plants? Well, firstly, don't try and bring the terracotta pots in from the garden. Terracotta absorbs water, which means that you will get watermarks on your furniture and on your floors. Pots for indoor plants have to be completely waterproof, or you would get water damage in your home. But on the other hand, indoor plants need proper drainage. So this means that the most sensible way is to buy your indoor plant in its pot, which will have a drainage hole, and then put it, pot and all, into the ornamental pot. There are links in the description below to the designers, to Indoor Garden Design and to Joy of Plants, who were the sponsors of this project, plus any useful resources that I've mentioned. And if you've enjoyed this, please do hit like, because then I'll know that perhaps in the winter months you'd like to hear a bit more about indoor gardening. And if you'd like tips, ideas and inspiration for your garden, then subscribe to the Middlesized Garden YouTube channel, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.